Boom. And we are live with another episode of the Brown Water Banter podcast. My name is Jared Seymour.
My name is Joey Cates.
That's right. And happy 2023 to everybody. It's the first episode of the new year. We hope everybody had a great Christmas, happy holidays, the whole nine, man, and stayed safe. We got a great show for you this evening. We have Josh Barton in the studio this evening, talking to us from about the Home of Grace addiction recovery, man. So kind of a heavy topic to start out the year, but I think it's a good one and it deserves,
especially around the holiday time.
That's
exactly
what I was thinking.
When this is the busy season, unfortunately.
Right, or when problems arise or people become aware. But we're going to jump into all of that here in just a minute. But before we do, we want to mention the sponsors, the people who support us. I think you might know who I'm talking about. You know, New Year's resolutions are upon us, and oral hygiene is very important. So maybe that could be the top of your list here for 2023. Keep your mouth clean, man. And when you're ready to do that, go check out Southern Magnolia Smiles. They're on Facebook and Instagram at Southern Magnolia Smiles. That's Dr. Robbie Williams right there and his staff. They're located in Washington Avenue in Ocean Springs. So when you're looking to book an appointment, just give them a call at 228-215-1202 or check them out at southernmagnoliasmiles.com.
Yep.
We appreciate the support. Jesse Hill and his team are right here at hilltreemarketing.com. If you need a website built for any reason, he can take care of you. Maybe you're a content creator. Maybe you're a small business. Jesse's a one-stop shop. This is him and his team right here of photographers and videographers, IT. They handle it all. Just give him a call, or actually jump over to hilltreemarketing.com is where he wants you to go. Check out some of the work that he's done. See some of the websites that he's built. And when you're ready to pull the trigger, tell him that the Brown Water Boys sent you.
That's right.
Next up is our buddy Rocky over at Sea to Swamp. They are located on Goche Vancleave exit, Goche Vancleave Road. Just go south off the interstate. They're located on the left there. You can check them out on Facebook. They're Sea, the number 2, and then Swamp. They've got all of your apparel, tackle, fishing, whatever covered. We're showing some photos here. They got AFCO fishing gear. They've got rods, reels, tackle. I don't think they do live bait though. But they got all your artificials, and they do rod and reel repair, which is legit. And Rocky does a great job. I've heard numerous people brag on his work. So be sure to go check them out. Sea to Swamp.
Yeah, they got brown water hats over there too. Rocky just called me today, said he's needing some more. So
sweet.
Throw some more back.
So we appreciate everybody that's picking them up here locally. Let's go ahead and shout that out real quick. I've been meaning to do that, Joey, before we start the show. If you want to buy our gear and you don't want to order it online, you want to look at it in person, touch it, feel it, wear it. There's a couple of shops that are supporting us as well.
Yeah.
Rocky at Sea to Swamp is one.
Yep. You got Nelson's
Outdoors in
Nelson's in Pascagoula.
We appreciate them.
Thurland's in Goche.
Yep.
We got the Islander in downtown Ocean Springs. And now we're back in Parker's General Store on Lemoyne.
On Lemoyne Boulevard. So any of those places you swing by, you can grab our gear, and we want to shout them out for supporting the show. And bringing up the rear here is Taylor and Cox Law Firm. If you find yourself in the situation where you need great representation, a good lawyer, they're local. They've been practicing law in Pascagoula for 30 years. Give them a shout. Give them a call at 228-696-0111. They specialize in criminal law, family law, and civil litigation defense. And we appreciate them looking to work with them all out throughout 2023. So, oh man, so let's jump into it. Josh, man, thanks for stopping by this evening and talking with us. We should probably start out with today's a special day. What is an anniversary for Home of Grace? Is that right? It is.
January 2nd, 1965 was the first man entered the Home of Grace 58 years ago today.
Wow. I don't think that's
what a day to plan it.
Yeah, I don't think that's a chance coincidence. I'd like to take credit and say we knew about that and we're that like good at scheduling, but we're not.
Yeah.
So it was coincidence. But let's start there. 60, what you said? 65. So in 1965, the Home of Grace was founded right here in Vancleave. Is that where it started?
Right here in Vancleave, right where our current property sits.
Okay. And I think you said you knew the guy who did it?
I know him pretty well, yes. So my grandfather, he started it. I'll give you a little backstory. He's got an amazing story in and of himself.
Mm-hmm.
He was born with a cleft palate, cleft lip, no roof of his mouth. Mm-hmm. His mom had to keep him alive by dripping milk down his throat.
Yep.
Wow.
Can't suction with that.
Yeah, went through countless adversities as a child. Nobody could understand him but his own mom.
Yeah.
Felt called to preach at the age of 8.
Really?
Nobody in the world could understand him but his own mom. He said, he said,
Okay.
he said, I'd preach to the chickens and the cows and the birds and everything else that would listen. But anyway, he, again, went through a lot of challenges up to that point. Always wore a ball cap covering his face because nobody could understand him. And so that was kind of his buffer to the world. I'm going to just fast forward a lot. During that time, his dad developed an alcohol problem. And his dad was the kind that could go a month or two without drinking, but when he did drink, he drank the whole truck.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that devastated my grandfather because he was close with his dad. And it actually escalated to the point that he felt that his dad's alcohol problems was part of his fault as a kid because his dad had to work a lot of extra hours to pay for the surgeries for him. And he felt like if I didn't have this ailment, my dad may not have an alcohol problem.
So he blamed himself.
So he blamed himself and got to the point where he actually prayed that God would take his life as a child if it meant his dad would stay clean.
Wow.
Right.
And so that's some of the seeds that started probably at an 8-9-year-old kid.
Right.
So anyway, there's a lot of stories I could tell you about him, but really cool.
Yeah.
Fast forward, he ended up pastoring some churches. While he was pastoring churches after college, he started seeing these families where wife and kids were trying to make ends meet. Husband was off drunk, and it broke his heart. Probably reminded him of his own childhood.
Right. Right.
And so that's when he had the vision to start Home of Grace and started sharing that. Somebody donated the original 10 acres of land. Somebody donated an old trailer. And so on January 2nd, what happened was these guys started calling my grandfather and said, I need help. And my grandfather said, we're not ready. We don't have power. We don't have water. And the guy said, I have nowhere to go. And he said, come on. So that's how the first guy entered January 2nd. By the way, our third guy, he passed away just a few years ago, Pat Sullivan from Moss Point. He'd been clean 50 something years. He was 92 years old. And, but he said, when your grandfather brought us in, us old drunks and winos, he said he just loved on us, taught us to love the Lord and to love others. And he said, I've never gotten over that. Now it's 53 years later.
Wow.
That's pretty
That's
powerful.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So what do y'all consider yourself a rehab, or what is it actually considered?
Yes, addiction recovery.
Addiction rehab. Okay.
But it's faith-based, correct?
Faith-based.
Yeah. You think about back, like even nowadays, like mental health is becoming a bigger topic and people are putting more focus on it. But even today, I don't feel like it's where it needs to be. And treatment for that, you think if you break an arm, you know how to go to the hospital, we fix the arm, go on your way. When you talk about mental health, which this falls right in line with, it's not that simple. It's not that simple of a process. And to think that your grandfather was thinking about that, I guess, because like you said, it was hitting him personally and then in his immediate relationships in his life in the 60s to develop something like that. He was a bit, to me, ahead of his time, especially for around here, right?
Right. So the first place in the country was a place called the America's Keswick, started in the late of the early 1900s. Through that, a place in North Georgia was started called Victory Homes. My grandfather took 2 men down here from his church that had alcohol problems to Victory Homes, fell in love with that place. And the guy said, I'll help you get something started if you would like. And that's how, but there was only about 3 places in the entire country that was doing much of anything with that at that time.
Wow. Yeah.
And I know you mentioned men a lot with drinking and stuff like that, but it does happen to women.
Yeah. We have a women's facility as well. So
I guess I think it's harder for men to ask for help.
Yeah,
more than it is for women. You know what I'm saying? It's harder for the man to say, hey, I have a problem, I need help, than I think a woman does.
Right.
I just think so. I don't know.
I would agree with that. I mean,
maybe that is the case. Oftentimes everybody realizes you've got a problem before you realize you have a problem on either case. And so, but a man will often do everything he can and try to deny that it's a problem because you feel like I really can quit if I just really wanted to, hard enough, bad enough. I'm just going to work, I can work hard enough getting back in my job. I'm going to do things right. And they'll fight it until all the wheels fall off for the most part.
Yeah. Do you notice that for those people that are going through that, that it's a cycle? Does it seem like, I'm sure it's all gambits of addiction, but they do good, they do bad, they do good, they do bad.
Well, there can be patterns. Some of them have a lot more patterns than others. Some people, this sounds really strange, but when they actually start doing really, really well, it's like success scares them, and they will sometimes self-sabotage. Others will do really well until adversities hits. They go through a divorce, or they start having
lose a job, or something
things
like
that, and it's like that has been their coping mechanism. It's just what they're comfortable with. But having one doesn't work. It's game on once they start that. So, but yeah, a lot of them just have a different pattern on how they end up using.
Right.
Wow, that's what. So your grandpa starts it. Then who's next in the lineage here to continue it on?
So my dad was the director for many years as well. A little bit of a difference between my grandfather was very much a personality plus. He would be writing this table. I mean, cutting it up with you guys. He was an awesome communicator and loved to get the public involved with things. My dad was not so much that, but my dad was a lot more of a down and in person for the Home of Grace. So he said, if we're going to be addiction recovery program, how can we be as successful as we can be? Mm-hmm. So he's the one that started, he brought in individual counseling, group counseling, classroom instructions, workshops, created a medical clinic where we have volunteer doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners that help oversee that. So my dad was the nuts and bolts between really making the program the success that it is today.
Did he know from an early age that he wanted to be a part of that?
No, in fact, he was working at Ingalls, putting guns on ships, and in his 20s, and they got laid off. And my grandfather hired him and some friends of his. At that time, we were going into different areas and tear down old structures, bringing the materials out to the Home of Grace. We'd build cottages and cabins and things like that with it. So he hired my dad and some friends of his to come help do some of that work for him. And I'll tell you one quick funny story about that. So my grandfather had a house in Pascagoula that had been donated, and he sent my dad and his best friend Mike over to tear this house down. And so they had the entire roof tore off of this house. My grandfather pulls up and he says, you guys are at the wrong house.
No way.
Were they really at the wrong house?
Absolutely.
No,
I
thought he was tore somebody's roof off.
Oh, wow.
But obviously it was a house that nobody was living in.
Right.
And my grandfather actually went and talked to that landowner, and they donated that house too.
Oh, it's a win-win. Yeah, it's a win-win.
That
could have been bad.
It was a Malox moment for a moment.
Oh,
yes.
my God.
Yeah, that could have been bad. That could have been bad.
So little pucker, no.
Yeah. So my dad did not have intentions necessarily growing up to go work at Home of Grace, but once he got involved, even from that level, and you start hanging out with the guys or the girls that are in the program, you get to meet some of the most genuine dynamite individuals, because you're meeting them clean and sober. And so a lot of times you're seeing, this guy is unbelievably personality plus, gifted. Yep. I don't have a clue why his wife won't have anything to do with him, or his kids don't want to have it, because you didn't see the destruction that he left 3 months ago.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Yeah.
So, you start seeing the transformations taking place with people, and my dad fell in love with it from that point forward.
All right. And then you fall right in line, right out of the gate, knew you wanted to do it too?
No, I really didn't. That was nothing that was really pushed with my parents. It wasn't pushed or discouraged. But I went to Mississippi College, got my degree from Mississippi College, graduated, didn't want to go work directly for my dad right out of school. So I went and worked for the unemployment office, as a matter of fact. I worked there for a couple of years, helping people file unemployment claims and that type of thing.
What was your degree? What was your degree in?
Business administration.
Okay.
And so, later on I had an opportunity to go start working at the Home of Grace as business development. So we were building small cabins or cottages that we were selling. We were building picnic tables. We were doing different things to try to generate revenue for the Home of Grace, is how I started 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because you mentioned that your great-grandpa, your grandpa was the communicator, but your dad was like the nuts and bolts guy. How are we going to make this work? Is it, since the beginning, was it affiliated with a church that your grandfather was running? How do you make a business out of it? Where do the funds come?
Gotcha.
Right? That's a big question when you talk about stuff like this.
Correct. So it's not affiliated with a church. My grandfather was a Baptist pastor, but he created Home of Grace as a non-denominational organization, because our staff members come from a lot of different denominations. The clients that come in from all. So it's not established with a single or a certain denomination.
Yeah, it's just faith.
It's just faith, but it's a nonprofit organization. So half of our revenue comes in through donations.
Okay.
The other half comes in through our program fee. So our cost for someone to go through our program is a little over $7,000 per person is what it cost us.
Okay.
We charge $3,500 or half of that to cover the entire 3 months. And then we have to raise about $3,500 per person to break even. And so, and if you compare that to for-profit addiction recovery programs, they're normally $700 to $900 per day.
Yeah.
And so that's we're $33 a day versus $700 to $900 per day.
And I'm assuming insurance doesn't cover hardly any of this, right?
No, I mean, if we went the insurance route, our cost would go up substantially. So
staffing,
there's a lot of changes that would have to take place, and part of it has more to do with the faith-based side of things. So as far as
can't have religion in it.
Well, there's certain aspects of that would be compromised, I guess you could say.
Right.
You mean to tell me that the government affiliation would mess something up?
Well, I mean, you brought up mental health.
I don't understand.
You brought up mental health earlier, and a lot of insurance companies have stopped covering mental health drugs. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
it's weird. It doesn't make any sense.
The bottom line, profit. I mean, that's
right.
It's healthcare is nothing but getting more expensive, even for the stuff that we know works. That's a whole other topic we could get into.
Well, donations. That's the reason why I asked Jared when we came in. I asked if Home of Grace is like the same little white boxes that we see everywhere that we donate stuff to, and that's part of y'all, but it's not.
Correct. So America's Thrift Store is a partnering organization that they have probably 20 something stores nationwide. So the Ocean Springs store and now the Gulfport store, Biloxi store, are the two that sponsor Home of Grace. So all the clothing and items that go into those stores, they're able to collect it all, process it, put it on the shelf, sell it, and then the Home of Grace gets a portion of that funds, and that's a big help to Home of Grace. If we don't have to do it. We used to have our own thrift stores years back in Moss Point. We get probably twice as much money through them, and we don't have to touch anything. We can focus on the men and women that come to us. So it's been a lot better.
Yeah. And I know y'all got one in D'Iberville. There's drop-offs everywhere. Right?
Oh, yeah. They have drop-offs all the way from Louisiana to all over the place. But but the two stores are Biloxi and Ocean Springs.
Sweet.
What does it look like from your perspective when you get a new, what do you call them? Patients? Client. Okay. When a new client comes in, is it, I'm sure it's a lot of things, but what would you say is like a most common? Is it family members are reaching out? Is it a group effort? Is it single individuals coming in and say, hey man, I don't know where else to go? What does the typical client situation look like?
Well, it's a pretty even mix.
Okay.
You've got moms or parents that are contacting, just wanting to get some information for their kid. Sometimes that can be to the point where it's almost like a parent ordered kid, like you're going.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a kid that wants help, but that the parents are doing the research for them,
which I'm sure is a hard step.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To make that first call, because that makes it real.
Absolutely.
Right now we're really reaching out for help. Like, oh man,
you got to admit it first.
Yeah, exactly. This ain't just, little Tommy's likes to party a little bit and he's still young and he's going to grow out of it. It's like, now you've admitted it. Right.
Absolutely. And you have some that come because their employer says, you need to get help. I'm willing to give you another chance if you go get help. So that happens sometimes. Excuse me.
Yeah, you just got to cough it too. Yeah, that's the only thing so far we've learned about these headsets. You got to maybe pull it down and cough, but otherwise we really dig them.
Well, so yeah, there's the individuals that contact us themselves, and then sometimes we have judges like from the legal system,
court appointed.
They do a really good job of. They understand the Home of Grace is for those that want help. We have no gates, no fences. If you don't want to go, be here. Go on. We've got 100 plus that won't help. So, but the judges will help see something in somebody and like, look, you've not been a violent offender. I want to get you some help. And so they send people to the Home of Grace too, or they reach out on their behalf.
Okay. Well, what does it look like for them when they walk through the
doors?
What's
step one? What we do? We talk to the counselors.
Sure. So paperwork and stuff like that.
Yeah. So at the very beginning, that'd be over the phone more with our admissions counselor that's going through all the paperwork, just making sure that they're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for them, meaning they're mentally stable, they're not suicidal,
Right.
they're detoxed before they come in, or at least
somewhat.
Mostly. I mean, yeah, we want them to be detoxed so they can, when they get there, they can get right into classes and counseling and that type of thing. And I mean, they still have, especially if they're coming off alcohol or opiates, they're going to have some uncomfortable nights and that type of thing. So, and that's understood if they're sober enough that they can get things started. But so admissions goes through all of that stuff, helps them with their packets and make sure they know what to bring. But when they come into the program, they would meet with the intake group. And so the really cool aspect of this is we have an intake staff person, but he has some guys that are actually further along in the program that come in there and they assist them. And man, it's just a nice, warm and welcoming situation, you know, especially
kind of like a big brother, big sister kind of thing.
It is, you know, the parents really, I hear so often that the parents just have a peace when they get there. They just feel comfortable with leaving their loved one there, and just the presence of the guys being so warm and welcoming. Now it could be a mixed bag for the client that's coming in. He could be really ready and want to be there, or he could just be there like white knuckling. I don't want to be here. I'm not changing anyway. I'm just coming to shut them up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
into my rope.
Yeah, and he's trying to read all these people. Are they full of it? Are they really nice and helpful? But so they go through getting them in and kind of go process all their stuff, making sure they're not trying to slip something in and all that stuff. They'll put them in a room, and so they'll usually have 1, 2, or 3 other roommates, depending on the cottage that they're in. And so they'll get to kind of hang out, meet the guys out there. There's usually a group of men in the program that sort of do this on their own, but they welcoming committee. They'll start going out and just making sure the guy's comfortable. Man, if you need anything, look, toothbrush, toothpaste, they got extra, whatever stuff you need, I'll bring. And so they do a really good job of creating a solid brotherhood among that group.
Right.
And so they'll start getting them prepared for that. Then for that first few days, there'll be an orientation. And orientation will just kind of walk them through what's the next 3 months going to look like. And so that's how they start getting acclimated at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Is that usually what the 3 months is, how it's broke down, or what do y'all do?
Yeah. So our main core program is a 3-month program. And so within that program, every week they have, at our men's campus, we have a larger group than our women's campus. So we actually break our classes and stuff up into halves. So, because we have a 120 bed campus, we'll take half of our clients and we'll put them in class in the morning, and the other half are on work detail that day. Now, work detail for us is very minor. They might be helping doing lawn care. They might be helping assist our kitchen staff. They might be helping, just doing basic little things around the campus. But during their 2-hour work detail, they're pulled out of that individually for their individual counseling sessions that week. So that first group, the first 6 weeks of clients are in that first in class in the morning, and the second 6 weeks are work detail. After lunch, they flip-flop. And so that next group goes out and they do work detail, and the other group goes to class. And again, they're pulled out for individual counseling and that type of thing. Now, we also try to work with them for the work program, even though they don't do much work. A lot has changed in the addiction recovery world since we started in the 60s. So the average person that came in the early years was probably 55 plus years old. Alcohol was a primary addiction.
Yeah.
So now our average age is 31, but we're taking in a lot of 18, 19, 21-year-old kids been on substance stuff since they were 8, 9, 12.
8, 9. I thought you were going to say like 12, 14, maybe.
I could tell you a lot of stories of parents shooting their own kids up. It's horrible.
What?
Yeah, it's very sad.
And reiterate, this is local. You're not taking people from out.
Well,
regional.
Yeah, for the most. We had we can get into it later on. We replicated Home and Grace in Kokomo, Indiana, this past year, and they've sent probably 200 plus people from Kokomo, an hour north of Indianapolis, over the last 3 years. But yeah, for the most part, our footprint is between Lake Charles, Louisiana, Pensacola, and we have hot pockets of like Birmingham,
Jackson.
Well, we don't get a lot from we get some from Jackson, but there's a lot from Corinth, Mississippi, just south of Memphis. There's areas that we've had alumni that have done really well, have done marketing, media, not marketing, but their story has gotten out that Johnny got help.
Yeah,
where did Johnny
So
get help?
Let's go
Right.
where Johnny went.
And then churches will have them speak and say, man, where did, would like to hear your story. And then when they do that, so we, that's kind of where the Home of Grace gets a lot of our clients from just where alumni has done well.
I think about
That's
it from,
pretty sweet,
from
yeah.
the fishing community though, Lake Charles
Oh,
to
yeah.
Pensacola. That's our turf right
Yeah,
here
yeah.
on the Gulf Coast, right?
Uh-huh.
But that's terrible. So let's go back to that though. In the beginning, late 50s, mainly alcohol to now.
So yeah,
I was going to ask that. What drug do you see most common? But I'm sure it's across the board.
It is meth and heroin, of course, the last few years. But where I was going back to that beginning of that, so the work program now.
Mm-hmm.
So we have so many guys now. In the early years, the 50+ crowd, they all had a trade. They were brick masons,
Right.
plumbers, whatever. So now you've got a 25, 28-year-old kid that's never worked. He's been on drugs or doing something crazy since he was 14, 15 years old. And so, not only are you helping them get clean and sober, but now they've got to learn, and we're not trying to teach them a trade, but we're just trying to teach them work ethic, like just show up at work on time, follow instructions, work with a great attitude.
All the time. The shipyard and Chevron, what I guess it's Ingalls or Huntington, whatever
he
it is
teaches
now.
trade school.
Yeah, I teach trade school now. And the guy's like, they don't have to know a trade. I need him to show up with a heartbeat, show up on time, and be clean on a drug test. That's the only two things I need him to do, and I can train the rest.
Right.
That's all they need to do.
And they can't find people.
And they can't find people to do it.
So you're seeing what happens after Joey when they fall through the cracks, so to speak, or keep doing
and
what
they go through
doing.
mine, and then I'll put my name on them. They go out to the shipyard, and what happened with that job? Man, I failed a drug test.
Right.
I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
Can't hold your hand forever. You know what I'm saying? And then they have to find something. They have to do something out there.
So where were you going with that? Y'all have to, you have to instill that into these guys?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we started with Ingalls years back with wanting to do some welding training and some different things with our guys. And they told us exactly what you just said. Look, we'll teach them the trade.
Everything they need to do.
They said exactly what I said earlier. If they can show up at work on time, follow instructions, work with a great attitude. So we try to take it to a different level. Us being a faith-based program, we teach them work as if, you're working to the Lord, not into others, doing the right thing when nobody's watching.
Right.
So that's your character. That's who you are. And so that's the things that, that we help them in their program, is helping them understand their purpose. That because just getting clean and sober, even so what if you just get clean and sober, but you don't have peace and joy in your life. And so if you understand your purpose, then you're going to get up every day with an excitement to make a difference. And so that's, kind of in the area of their work. That's what we would teach them for that.
Now, do y'all have a place that reaches out to y'all once you get people sober? Do you have a place that takes those guys or girls
for
in?
Work? You talking
for
about?
Work? Yeah.
Well, we get a lot of people into Ingalls.
Yeah.
So I guess we have some relationships with that. And a lot of our clients, some of them do need work, and then some of them still have a job waiting on them when they get back home.
Right.
It's a pretty mixed bag. And then some of them, you might have someone that's been in the medical profession for a while that has to completely take a different course because of,
what happened.
Correct.
We got let me click back here. First, I want to say hey to David in the comments, Ainsworth, for reaching out, talking to us, and setting us up. We appreciate that. But we got a guy in the comments. David said, if you know anyone struggling or need help, please reach out. Jason Jones puts it out here. He said he needs it bad, but they don't do Blue Cross. Yes. Jason, thanks for sharing that with us, man. And what would you say to him?
Well, we do have some other places that I'd be happy to refer him.
Yeah.
We have there's a place in Louisiana called Woodlake. They take a lot of people, great organization. They take Blue Cross. I know the owner quite well. In fact, the guys that does all their intake over there is Home of Grace alumni, guys that graduated our program helps do that. And so that would be one source. And in fact, if he wants to even call our admissions team tomorrow, we can help walk him through finding a place for him that will fit.
Well, there you go, Jason. You reached out on Facebook, you put it out there in the comments, man. So kudos to you for that. Send them a message.
Yeah.
Send them a message. They can point you in the right direction, man. It's
yeah. Speaking of financial, because I'm sure it's it's a financial thing. You got to take a hiatus from your job.
Yeah.
For someone, and then you got to come up with half. Right. I'm sure you have payment plans y'all work out, or how does that work?
Well, no, we ended up having to just do it all up front. We did payment plans in the past and went bankrupt. So it just didn't work out. So yeah, we have to, unfortunately,
you have to protect the business.
Yeah,
if you're not, it's like putting your oxygen on first before you help somebody else, right?
Correct.
If y'all aren't there, then you can't help the people who can.
That's exactly who can
pay. So, yeah, that kind of took me back. I hope Jason reach out to him, man. Send him a message and get in there.
Yeah.
What was we saying right before that though? I had a follow up on what we were talking about.
Yeah. Angles.
Yes. Thank you. So what I was going to say is I kind of have a theory on this, and I'm sure not anything new, but correct me, see if I'm in the right ballpark here. Is that addiction, whatever it is, whether it's drugs, alcohol, I mean, it's all not good. It's the symptom. Right. It's usually something else going on. And you kind of mentioned it, I think, especially with the generation coming up now. It's different than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago, where guys were working. Some didn't even graduate high school. They got right to work. Or if they did graduate, they usually were married, had families right out of the gate, went to work.
12 hours and came home and drank beer.
And had a trade and had the ability to be self-sustainable and had pride in what they did. You mentioned people nowadays, the kids that are 28, sometimes years old, that don't have a trade, that don't have any way to be self-sufficient in the world. Do you see that as like the reason that some of these guys are dealing with that? It has to start somewhere. Yes. Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, a couple things. One, yes, I had to, a good friend of mine had to preach his son's funeral not too long ago because of similar situation came up with a very successful family and never really had to work and was able to kind of just play a long time until it
silver spoon. So
So, that does happen a lot, and, or kids get on, just on a path and they become they become an adult child.
Right.
And they've never learned to work. And they don't realize they don't have any self-esteem, but they don't, because they would feel like if mom and dad cut me off today, I'm going to starve to death because I don't know how to survive.
Right.
So that is an aspect. Now there's a lot of others though that, for one, alcohol and drugs are different for everybody. So in other words, some people can drink and never really have an issue. Some people, one or two, and it's like COVID. It's like it's going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
And somebody else is like it wasn't a big deal.
Right.
And so there's been a lot of people that's, came from great families, had great work ethic, all those types of things. But either they got addicted to pain pills because of kidney stones. We had a pastor that came through our place that liked to lost a lot because of
the opioid addiction is huge, gigantic now.
So I mean, it could just be a car accident and you get on prescription pills and it takes you down a path you never intended to go. It could be that pure, or or experimenting as a teenager and it end up, so there's a lot of different ways to get there.
Yeah, the psychology behind it. Everybody's different. Some people are more strong-willed, some people are less. Some people, like you said, be doing good for a while, or never have had a drug problem, and all of a sudden, bam.
Well, you see a lot of injuries, like you were talking about, like somebody gets hurt at work, or they get in a wreck, or something like that.
But I don't know the exact statistic, but I feel like I remember, because we deal with this in surgery. They have this like big push for non-opioid plans of care and anesthesia, try to reduce. But I don't think it's a significant amount of the population that becomes addicted just per a surgical intervention or in the hospital. Now, long-term chronic pain issues, probably different.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, a lot of them though, it doesn't take that long. When my wife had her major back surgery and the doctor we got to be good friends with, we mentioned some of that earlier.
Yeah.
Now she was in the worst kind of pain you can imagine, when your spinal cord is being absolutely crushed. So every nerve from your belly button to the end of your toes are lit up like a Christmas tree. She had kidney stones and handled that well. This was crippling her. So I knew this was a bad situation. Anyway, after her surgery, they gave her 2 bottles of Dilaudid. So she had which they call the hospital heroin for non. But anyway, so after she had been on that for some time until she had the surgery, we got back home 10 days later, they had just given her that. And, you read the bottle, you carry it as prescribed. 10 days later, she starts getting all achy and fidgety and said, I need my medicine. And I said, Haley, I think you're dealing with withdrawals. And she said, Josh, I just had major surgery. I said, I know. Does your back hurt? She said, not really. I said, I'm telling you, dealing with, I said, because she was getting, I said, watch, take this and all that's going to quit. And she took it and she said, flush them.
Yeah.
But
see, that's the will.
Yeah.
Right. She didn't say no.
But had she not had me, she would have been probably taking them for the next 30 days.
Yeah.
Or however long.
And then trying to get more and more.
Well, I don't know how that story would have led.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm just saying it was 10 days in. She was taking them as prescribed. And then, of course, anybody that's really seen a detox, half her body freezing, half her body sweating, throwing up, diarrhea, everything for the next 7 to 10 days. Just absolutely crazy. I've been doing it at the Home of Grace my whole life. That's the first time I've seen it in my home.
Right.
Watching someone really go through that. But all I'm just saying is a lot of times somebody could just have a normal surgery. And I think that's one reason that, they have put an emphasis on it, because I think it affects some people differently. Mm-hmm. I had to have Lortab when I had my all this stuff taken out. Didn't have no problems at all with me. Just took it as prescribed, quit when I stopped having issues. But it certainly affects people differently.
There's I was looking it up a minute ago when you were talking, if you saw me typing over here. He's been on Rogan's podcast. There's a professor out of Columbia. His name's Carl Hart, and he's actually a pro-drug professor of psychology and is in favor of decriminalization, I believe, if I remember correctly. But he does heroin regularly, and just is like, hey, I'm not addicted to it. I've never been. He's a high functioning individual.
Right.
And it's really weird to listen to him talk too. You talk about the gamut of different type of people and how they handle things. The spectrum is the word I was looking for. It is different across the board. I don't know that would work for everybody.
Probably not.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to test that theory myself personally. But it seems to be that it's not having, and maybe he has a life event one day down the road and it derails him, or
maybe,
not.
Yeah, maybe or maybe not. Same with alcohol. Like I said, some people it bites like a serpent, and some people you never have an issue. And you were talking about willpower, strong will,
right?
So some of the guys that's been through the Home of Grace have been some of the strongest willed, toughest men I've ever known in my entire life. And in fact, one of them I'm going to describe. He's the best construction worker I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of the common denominator of people you work with a lot of times in addiction are some of the best in their field. Car salesmen, painters, whatever they do, they're some of the best. And so I've worked with a lot, and this guy is the top I've ever seen. And just hardworking, driven like you could not imagine. And so crack cocaine like to have taken him out on multiple occasions. Wow. But where I'm going with this, even when he'd have 6, 7, 8 months clean sometimes, he would be driving back to Alabama, a direction where he lived, and there'd be certain exits where he had bought it in the past.
Yeah.
And he said, when I got to that exit, I would have to fight with everything I had. And he said, I'd be singing to the top of my lungs and fighting the steering wheel. As soon as I got past it, it would release.
Yeah.
And he would he stole his son's Christmas gun one year and sold it for crack. And somebody was asking, said, why would you steal your son's Christmas gift? He said, what would you do for your next breath of air?
Yeah.
That's how bad I needed it at that moment.
Yeah.
And for someone like him, who I would say is a lot stronger, tougher than I am, mentally in a lot of ways, it helped me to see a different view of how it's like somebody holding your head on. He's the one that helps a lot of guys get into Ingles.
Okay. He said, I'm gonna flash it on the screen. He said he has a $500 voucher for anyone who is willing to go to the Home of Grace. He graduated 11 years ago and uses the tools he was taught every day. So awesome. Gregory, that's pretty stand up, sir. We appreciate that. And man, I don't know. That's
really cool.
Yeah, Jason shared some more stuff in the comments, so I won't read it out. But man, there you go. That's $500 towards it, Jason, if you're willing to do it, man.
So where's your women? Is your women's campus?
It's in close to Hickory Hills.
Okay. So they're out there golfing.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
That'd be pretty sweet.
You talk about will. power, and I guess it has the ability to take that away from people at times, I guess, right? And especially when they're in the middle of it. The part that's kind of hard to understand is not when you're in the middle of all that stuff, because that makes sense, right?
Right.
He needed another fix if he's
Right.
jonesing for it, right? But it's when they're doing good. I remember seeing an interview. I think it was Robin Williams talked about he had been sober from drugs and alcohol for like some crazy number, like 8-9 years, and he went into I think it was a convenience store or something somewhere, bought something, and it was the airplane bottle. I remember that, of Jack Daniels, sober 9 years, and it was like it hit him. He was like, "I'll just one.
Right.
It's not going to be that big a deal." 9 years, and I'm like, listen to stories like it's been 9 years. Why would you?
Mess it up.
He said one airplane size thing of Jack Daniels. He said, "Oh, 3 days later, I blacked out for 3 days. Woke up 3 days later off of a alcohol drug bender." And I'm like, it's
just a little taste.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I hate it for people. Like, how does that happen?
A lot. Genetics I think has a big part of some of that. And so, my grandfather had a guy that he got to be close with, an alumni, and they went out to eat one time, and with some other people that was there, and somebody offered him a drink, and he said, "I don't have the time for it." And they said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I don't have the time that he said, in other words, if I take that drink for the next 3 months, I'm going to be AWOL.
Yeah. Oh man.
And so
at least he knew.
Yeah.
He absolutely knew. But it affects everybody different. And some people, Todd Trenchard, his story's been shared a lot on the Gulf Coast. He went through our program. He's been through 42 different drug treatment programs nationally. He's now the president of the Baco McCarty Foundation. Anyway, he says the first time he ever took a drink, he said, I could feel it running through my veins, and I knew I was wired a little bit different than everybody else. And so it became game on for him. And he went through his dad was very wealthy. His dad passed away. He inherited all that money as an early kid.
Gave it all back.
And so, it became game on.
God.
And
well, he's doing good now.
He's doing excellent.
Yeah. Excellent now. Yeah, he's got his own show. Got all kinds of stuff, man. It's
good for him.
Yeah.
What is you mentioned your degree, business administration. What is your role like daily at Home and Grace now at the facility?
So I am executive director. So I say chief plumber, but so we have about 40 something staff members between the men's campus and the women's campus, and hundreds of volunteers. So very blessed to have a solid team around me. A lot of what I'm working on is vision, focus, future. So we've already purchased about 75 acres where we're going to build a brand new state-of-the-art women's facility in Vancleave. It's about 7 miles from our men's campus. Private rooms, private bathrooms. We still have almost all the funding we'll have to raise for that, but we have the architects, Roy Anderson's group's helping us with that. So they're finishing up the plans for that now. And so that's one aspect of it. I mentioned, we talked a little bit beforehand, but replicating Home of Grace. So we're free consultants, but we're helping Valley of Grace in Kokomo, Indiana get established. They just opened a 12-man facility up there. So I feel like there's such a need for what we do. Felt years back that I really wanted to be able to replicate and help other people do similar things that we're doing. And so we started putting our operation manual together in a way that we could replicate, even though it scared me to death because I felt like I can't keep up with what I've got. But but there's such a need that I wanted to teach and show others how to do that. So that's part of what I've been involved with is sharing, working with other organizations, because when there's organizations that are doing what I say the right thing for the right reasons, they're trying to do it right, then we can all learn from each other. They're doing things better than us in some ways. We're doing better things, and so we can all
swap. Yeah,
we can all learn, because this is life and death.
Right.
In the last 2 to 3 years, as you've seen the opioid crisis, we've been doing this 58 years. I've seen more deaths in the last 2 to 3 years than probably the entire 50-something years before that in overdoses. And so
are you talking about people that had been through your program at one time or another, or are you just talking about nationally?
I'm talking about people that have been through our program.
Okay.
I'm saying in the past, someone goes through our program, sometimes they might stay clean 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, and they have a bump in the road. Let's just say alcohol was a problem. They might have a bump in the road, and they decide, I'm going to go straight to a support group, or I'm going to surround myself because I don't want to go back down that journey. Or, whatever drug or alcohol problem that they have, they might have a slip up, but they can get back on track. With heroin, and never knowing if his fentanyl was mixed in it or not.
Yeah.
They might
Yeah,
be clean
yeah.
6, 7, 8 months. The next batch they get, they don't, or the first time they decide to relapse, either their body has lost the tolerance that it had built up for one, or it has a different substance that they used before.
You don't know potency. There's no way to know.
Right.
So there's no way to
now
know.
with fentanyl, probably might be your last batch.
Yeah. And I give that to people every single day.
Yeah.
Right. Every day I'm at work. But I know exactly how much is in my syringe. It's pharmaceutical grade in a controlled environment.
It's a whole different ballgame.
I couldn't imagine just injecting myself or watching somebody else. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
because I know what it does. I mean, I see it every single day.
And also for someone that's using it for that purpose, they're trying to redline it. They're trying to push it as far as they can to get the biggest
highest high.
Yeah. But they don't want to black out because then they've wasted it.
Correct.
So they're trying to redline it. So they're having to kind of do a small test sometimes, and then it's and it's sick because they have such an addiction to it, no other way to say it, that they'll actually, if someone overdoses and dies, someone will actually grab what's left out of their pocket and go try it somewhere else because they have that bad of a pull of that strong of a pull for it.
Yeah, we've had we've had two different people, the CEO and Angela Mallett, and I can't remember his name, the CEO of End It for Good. Are you familiar with
him?
Okay.
I love it.
So we've had both of them on the show. I know Angela outside of all that. She's a great person. But they do a lot of cool stuff. And I went to one of their seminars and got to talk at the end. Everybody in the crowd got to speak. And, I wanted to reiterate to people, I was like, you see it on like television, the news every night, fentanyl and how evil it is. And I told those people all sitting in that thing, I'm like, fentanyl is just like a hammer.
Right.
You could build something with it, or you can bash somebody's head in
right.
it. For what I do every day, it's a miracle drug. Like you definitely want me to have that or some version of an opioid, right?
Absolutely.
Because you need it, and I know I have a very narrow perspective on that because of what I do for a living, but I brought that up to say that understand that it's a tool, and the problem is the person and what they're going through.
Absolutely. So
it's not like it's a monster out there.
Absolutely.
It's just destroying lives because of what it can do.
Absolutely. It's a miracle tool for those that need it.
Correct.
I've been, like I said before, I've been doing this my whole life pretty much. I grew up at the Home of Grace as a small child, been around addiction my whole life. Well, my wife had that tumor, and we ended up with this unbelievable neurosurgeon in DC. He had 2 years worth of just the worst case patients that had botched surgeries all over the place. They were just horrible shape. I was able to see the real need for all these opiates that I'd been trying to help people get off of on that other side. And my wife needed them during that season as well. When you just need you've got to have reliefs in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. It would
be
bad.
Tylenol wouldn't help it.
No, they ain't gonna cut it. No.
So that was very eye-opening to me. I mean, I really understood them a lot better from having to go through it with my wife.
No.
Is it a constant, like, I don't know if struggle's the right word, but like helping people and a business at the same time, that the business is helping people? You mentioned donations, you mentioned volunteer work, you mentioned that the client pays about half of what the total cost would be. Do y'all still have ways of raising revenue while the person is there? Like you mentioned, building tables. Do y'all sell things that kind of mutually beneficial, gives them something to do, be proud of, and help cover costs?
We don't do that any longer. Those things never really became that profitable for us because you have such a turnover of guys in the program the first 30 days. They're not even seeing straight by the time they're ready to leave, so
it's
trying to build no picnic
table.
It's a lot easier to just hire people. If you were to do a business like that, hire people that's all they do and not having to retrain every 30 days.
Correct.
But so the my brain just went. What was the?
It happens to me all the time.
Working,
juggling, helping people in a business, though the business side of it.
Yeah. So I have to spend more of my time on the business side at this season than I do in the program side. Now, I did get involved I wrote a new curriculum last year that really involved helping people in 7 different areas of their life: mental, physical, spiritual, financial, relational. I'll butcher the other 2, but so I was involved with that aspect of the program. But especially into the year, like the last couple months, is really you bring most of your donations in November, December for what you're going to have for the whole year. So I've got to be a lot more out and about networking and speaking with our donors, especially those that if they're going to give a significant gift to the Home of Grace to help us either build something or fix something or buy a 15 passenger van or whatever it is, then I need to go and share with them specifically about what we're trying to accomplish. So I've got to do that a good bit. And then, just watching the numbers, you're trying to take a penny and stretch it a mile
far as it'll
long,
go.
because that our goal, you're trying to help as many people as you possibly can, and also be the most successful addiction recovery program you possibly can be. And those are two things that fight against each other, because, if I took all of our resources and helped 10 people a year versus 500 people a year, you could give those people a lot of attention and focus and long-term stuff. So we're trying to juggle both of those, being as successful as we can and yet help as many people as we can.
How do you define success?
Well, the way that we have about 7 different areas a lot of different areas that we measure that. But 1 year, we were trying to measure 1 year of clean sobriety, as far as from a sobriety standpoint, is what we consider successful. Now, there's a lot of things that, whether they're for us getting involved in a church, finding a support group, whether they've got gainful employment. So there's several different measurements that we do. We have about a 70% graduation rate. So of those that enter our program, about 70% of those graduate. We have about 40 to 50 people a year that get their GED while they're in our program.
That's cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of mile markers that we cover, but and even from a success standpoint, there's a lot of individuals that go through the program and they get the seeds and they stay clean for 3-4 months. They have a bump in the road, but they get back on track. I would consider those individuals successful as well. But for the most part, when we're, there's a lot of different metrics that we measure. 12 months sobriety is really what we're shooting for.
There you go. Okay.
And I'm sure y'all have counselors and stuff, like y'all don't kick them out the door and say, happy graduation, right? If they have people that you can call.
Correct. And when someone graduates our program, their counselors have already worked through with them an action plan. Their action plans helps them define where they're going to be going to live, what they're going to be doing work-wise, what their accountability person's going to be, where their support group is. So they have a full action plan whenever they leave our program.
Yeah, that's a great question, because you mentioned, like, whatever the number, 3 months, 6 months, bump on the road.
Right.
If you think about it, like at first it's like, okay, well then $3,500 to get in, then it happens again 6 months later, $3,500 again. Yeah. It could add up really quick, but y'all are training these guys and girls. If I'm hearing this correctly, like, if they do have a bump, they should have, like you said, a field manual,
a team,
yes,
right? To go, hey, I just screwed up. This is not right. And then not have to run straight back to y'all. They ought to have a little bit of body armor, right? Or something, right?
Absolutely. And so if they go out and they have a bump in the road, but they already have a solid support system around them, they shouldn't have to come back and go all the way back through the program. Now, we actually just recently launched again a 30-day, but it's specifically more for those that either their job won't let them leave more than 30 days. So everything's still kind of intact, but 30 days is about as long as they can break away. But also for alumni, let's say someone goes out there and they do have a bump in the road, but the wheels haven't totally fallen off, but I just need a safe place for 30 days to kind of get my feet back under me. Yeah. So, but yeah, if we're doing our job really well, then hopefully they're able to keep things together and not ever have to come back to visit.
Is there a way for them, graduates of the program, to, when they have that situation, like a bat phone, to call you and y'all can kind of, now you know what you need to do. You need to do this, this. Is there that?
Yes, they're always able to call back and talk to their counselor. One of the wonderful things is the alumni group. They become like a family. When someone goes through our program, they become like a real family. We have monthly alumni nights. We have annual homecoming. We have hundreds of alumni that come back in from all over the country.
That's cool. Yeah.
And so they network with each other very, very well. We have alumni Facebook pages, specifically, not just the big page. There's actually, for people that are listening, there are pages specifically for families of the addict. So a lot of times, if you've got a son that needs help, but he doesn't want help, and you're trying to figure out, how do I help him without hurting and all those types of things, a lot of times they can get on those forums and they can ask questions. And that's very helpful when you can say, should I do this for my son? And you get 14 answers,
Yeah,
and,
well,
and
this
it-
worked,
and
this
12
didn't,
of
yeah.
them say the same thing. It's probably
Yep.
Probably worked.
helps you to
Yeah,
understand.
you
that.
talk about like what your situation with your wife. A lot of people when they get a devastating diagnosis, that's what they do. They go and get on chat rooms or forums.
Yeah.
This is
That's
no
what
different.
saved
It's
my
no
wife's
different.
life.
Yeah.
I would not have found that doctor and all those journeys except for through Facebook forums. And
Yep.
then that's when I came back is when we started doing forums specifically for families of
Works.
addicts.
Where is that? Is that page? Is your main page is Home of Grace? What are those forum pages? Are they?
I know it's Home of Grace.
Is it all Facebook?
It's all Facebook
Okay.
related stuff.
I can look it up later
Yeah.
and drop it in there. But I'm sure just type in Home of Grace
Yeah.
family, and
Yeah,
you
the
can hear
families
some
of the addict or
Right.
something
I
like
saw
that.
you on the news the other day. Are y'all doing outreach to like young kids? Are y'all doing some stuff like that? I can't remember. It was like a barbecue or something like that.
Could have been
cook off. I don't remember.
I don't
know it was on
remember.
there.
We,
But are y'all doing any outreach? Y'all go to schools or anything like that?
a lot of times we do. So yeah, we get invited to go speak at different churches or civic groups. A lot of times civic groups invite us, and I bring some of the alumni or the clients in the program, and they share. And that's always really good that people, a lot of times, if they haven't really been in addiction in the world, I mean, it affects every family. But
Right.
if it hasn't really been that close to you, they think of someone in addiction. They think of the guy on the side of the street, the
druggie
drug
that lives
addict,
underneath the
whatever.
bridge.
Nah.
And when
yeah.
you go in there and you got a clean cut 31-year-old kid that's been on heroin for the last whatever, and you're like, man, that looks like my son or my brother. And it's a college graduate, very well spoken. And so it really helps for people to have a different perspective of what addiction looks like.
What type of staff do you have on hand at the things at your property there? What are you running these clients through, right?
So
I don't think people see the treatment side of things.
Right,
Like,
right.
what do we do to treat this, right?
Yeah,
Like,
so
you mentioned counselors.
correct. So we have walking through a lot of different aspects. We have devotion stuff. We have different teachers that come out and do devotion stuff with the guys during the day. We have a lot of classes, whether it's biblical classes or relapse prevention classes or fatherhood classes, financial classes. So there's a lot of classroom aspects. So we have teachers that do that specifically. We have about 8 full-time counselors between the men's campus and the women's campus. We have on-duty staff. Those guys are like the brothers of the men. They go out there and they kind of hang out with them. They do, make sure the guys staying within boundaries and all the rule stuff, but they're more of a brotherhood. They go out there and they have a really good time with the guys as well. We have our admissions team. So if a mom or dad or someone's calling to get someone in, they're talking with our admissions team.
Mm-hmm.
We have our financial CFO, bookkeeper, marketing, fundraising groups. And then, of course, very similar things at our women's campus, counselors and administrative staff and that type of thing over there as well.
Family visitation, I'm sure.
Yes.
Times, especially with the mothers, right?
Yes, we do. And in fact, a little shout out to Lemon Moeller Insurance. They, for the last several years, have done a big Christmas party where they used to have a really nice Christmas party for their own staff, steaks, really nice stuff. They decided to forego that and use all those resources. And so they put on this big family Christmas party for our clients and their families and kids. And they get to come out in and it's all catered and they have Santa Claus there and they have gifts for the kids and they have recreational stuff. And so, man, to see those kids and moms and wives and come in there and just light up, probably hadn't had a good, happy Christmas probably in a few years.
Yeah.
And so, we're able to do that for Christmas, but every month they have visitation, family visitation as well. And we also have a counselor that does marriage counseling. So sometimes it's virtual if they're from Lake Charles or, Memphis or something, but a lot of times the spouse comes in and he does marriage counseling with those individuals as well.
So the full gambit.
Full thing. Now, I mean, they still have phone access and stuff like so they're talking to their kids and stuff like that every night, or how does that work?
They have phone. They don't have their phone, but
right.
They're allowed to have weekly phone calls with their family and that type of thing. And sometimes I think they even have an iPad, some that they can use
FaceTime,
for FaceTime
stuff like
yeah.
Well, that's good, man. What's coming up for 23? Anything on the horizon that you can talk about, or doing anything different, or doubling down on what works?
Well, a couple things. Some of this has not really even been talked out very much yet.
Hot off the press.
Hot off the press. That's what we love here, exclusives.
So I'll start by some of the stuff I mentioned earlier. So the new women's campus property that we have, probably March is when all of those plans will be completed. That's probably going to be a $5 to $7 million building thing that we'll be launching, and I've got some supporters that's going to be helping us with the first parts of that getting going. So I'm very excited about that. I mentioned the 30-day program stuff that we've been going, but the thing that we're looking at launching this upcoming year is doing some outpatient counseling center. So there's so many individuals that maybe can't take 3 months to come to the Home of Grace. They're at the beginning of that journey. So we want to be there for them. Also, there's so many families that are affected by the addiction. I mean, so, they say it's a family problem, so everybody's having to deal with it. So you got moms and dads and brothers and sisters that need to have somebody they can talk to, even kids of parents that have problems. So we want to be a resource to help those individuals as well. But also the beauty of that is when someone graduates the Home of Grace, if they need continuing care, they can start going to a counselor once they get out, whether it's weekly or monthly or whatever, and just kind of have touch-up stuff. So that's something that we're hoping to do this upcoming year. And we exciting, like I said earlier, Valley of Grace, Kokomo, Indiana, started their 12-bed facility this past year. And so
a lot of outreach stuff.
It's been exciting to see someone take, and I'll tell you one little quick story on that is really awesome. There's a short video I can actually show. We can put on that for later on. It's Joey's story, the guy that started Valley of Grace.
Mm-hmm.
So he was driving down the road, hallucinating on drugs, thought the police were after him. He got so paranoid he thought they were about to open his car that he actually took a knife to his throat and jumped out of the car while it's going down the road.
Jesus.
His wife got a phone call in the middle of the night that he was at the ER, and she found out about Home of Grace. Don't even know how. He came to the Home of Grace, did really well, went back. About a year later, he's walking into his living room, and his wife said, "You're not going to believe this, but last night I had a dream you were running an addiction recovery program." He said, "You're not going to believe this, but I've been praying about that for about 2 months, but I didn't want to tell you." So he contacts me and says, "What do you think about this?" And I said, "Well, I've been feeling led to prepare for replication." I said, "Oh, it scares me to death.
Yeah.
But I'll volunteer and help you any way I can if this is something you're really interested in." So he started sharing that with his community. It took off like wildfire. Indianapolis Press picked up a story. They sent over 200 people through the Home of Grace because of his story. Now those 200 alumni are his network of volunteers and helpers up there that has put his
army.
So now, they've done a phenomenal job. But that video shows his story, and it is very well done.
We can drop a link.
Yeah,
to
we'll
it
put a link in the comment.
Really cool. Later on for sure. Well, it sounds like you got a lot going on for 23. So we wish you the best, man. And
absolutely.
We appreciate you stopping by here this evening and talking to us. If there's anything we can ever do to help y'all out or be a part of anything or promote anything that you're doing, we'd love to be a part of that as well.
If you want to donate to Homes of Grace, where's the best way to do that?
The website, homeofgrace.org, whether they want help or want to help, either way, homeofgrace.org can get them to that right place.
That's good. Yeah, because if they're out there, we got somebody, like I said, already chime in on the comments.
Hopefully he does it. Yeah,
if you're listening to this and you can't on the replay or whatever, homeofgrace.org.
Correct.
Yeah, or send us a message and we can get you over that way.
We'll refer you over there. Don't just sit back.
Don't play around with it
and not get help. Right. It's life or death, like you mentioned. So we appreciate it, man.
Thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely. And thanks everybody for tuning in, watching.
Yep.
We got a lot of stuff planned ourselves for 2023. And I lost.
We got to get another one of those trophies. You didn't even show the trophy, bro.
I didn't show the trophy. Let's show the trophy real quick. We will show the trophy. We want to thank WXXV. Start that camera straight across right there.
Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
Thank you.
And the viewers, for voting us best podcast. So man, it means
it was only like 3 votes to win it.
It was more than that. But we really do appreciate it. And like I said, 23 is gonna be cool. Joey and I, we ain't stopping. Just gonna double down. Make sure you download the app. The Brownwater Banter app. It's free in the App Store and Google Play. We're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff through there. So
absolutely.
We'll see y'all on the next one.